Welcome to Mediumship Matters, the podcast dedicated to spiritual growth, connection, and the reality of working with spirit. This season is proudly sponsored by Spirit Social, the brand new online community for the spiritually curious. It's a space where you can connect, share experiences, and access exclusive content without the noise of mainstream social media. With live events, expert insights, and a supportive community, Spirit Social is the place to deepen your journey. Take part in the free 6-month trial by visiting spiritsocial.co or downloading the app from the App Store now. Hello and welcome to Mediumship Matters with me, Hannah McIntyre. How are you doing? Continuing my foray into your questions, I've got some questions here that were sent in to me by lovely Carly. Carly says, Hannah, how are you, lovely? Hope all is well and you had a brilliant dem last Thursday. Wanted to say how much I'm enjoying your Me, Myself and Spirit course. In spite of a pretty major wobble on last Tuesday's call, I delivered a good practice reading on Friday evening and have somewhat restored my faith in myself. Well, a bit anyway, which is lovely, Carly, because obviously you sent me this email back in September. And I now know that you've done your first demonstration. So you are flying, girl, flying. Anyway, you've written me some questions. You've said you've got so many. Maybe it would be possible to cover them on the course in the coming weeks. Nope. Or perhaps on the podcast. Yes. Which, by the way, I'm obsessed with. Literally listen to it several times daily whilst on a walk, getting ready for work, doing dishes in the evening, etc., etc. A huge thank you for all of your knowledge, information, and musings you share. I am learning so much, and it's such an invaluable learning resource. Good. So, questions as follows. First one. There is a psychic medium whom I follow on Instagram who very much believes in earthbound spirits and who says it takes 2 to 4 weeks for a newly departed soul to cross over to the other side. I know from your podcast that this is not the view you share. She will often post videos about her seeing earthbound spirits, and occasionally she'll post a video of the actual location. For example, apparently there is a spirit who is very present at Disney World in California. She will post the video of the location, and then about 10 seconds later, an arrow will appear on screen to show where the spirit is in the video. Although we can't see the spirit on film, I've always been able to know exactly where the spirit is before the arrow appears. I was just wondering what this could be attributed to. Is it residual energy or is it spirit visiting the site perhaps? She also talks about how spirits are drawn to locations where there are lots of people, such as Disney World. But she also said she saw spirits at a Taylor Swift concert recently, and her view is that these spirits are drawn to the human energy of these places. I would love to know your thoughts on this, please. Now, I haven't said the medium's name because I don't want to cause controversy. Ha, she says. But no, that's not what I believe. In fact, my demonstration from Canterbury last week had a spirit came through that was buried the day before, or laid to rest the day before, should I say, and had only passed 2 weeks prior. My grandmother came through on a spirit board hosted by another medium on the night that she died, and I hadn't told anybody that that was the day that she had passed. So I don't believe that, and I have had evidence to the contrary of that belief. But what I would love to know is why 2 to 4 weeks? Does she not believe that spirit are beyond time and space? Because you can't believe that spirit are beyond time and space. I'm just thinking this through. You can't believe that if you believe that there is a period of time, like a timer. What do we do with this timer? I quite like the idea of it. It's quite fun. It's almost like it's the final countdown, and you've got 2 weeks, possibly 4 weeks, to sort your shit and haunt your relatives and go see Taylor Swift. So yeah, sorry, got off on one there, but no, that's not my belief system. I'm fascinated in it as a belief system, though. These are the questions that I would love to ask people, but they get really offended because people don't like it when you challenge their beliefs, especially if they've built a whole following around it. So no, I don't believe that. I don't believe that spirits get trapped here. I believe it's open. Spirits are here. I'm not saying they're not here, but they're not trapped here. They are here because the world is part of the spirit world and not separate from it. I wonder where she thinks they go. See, this has just given me more questions than giving you answers, Carly, but you'll be used to that. You're always asking me questions. So no, I don't believe in that. That is a strange belief system to me, but one that's widely propagated. So, and this is the thing, as we discussed previously, your belief system shapes your reality. So maybe that because she believes that, that is her reality. Who am I to judge somebody else's reality? Oh my God. So with regards to seeing the spirits in the video, now, this is one of those interesting things that comes up a lot, like most haunted places and spaces. If you believe that a space is haunted, that will be your experience of it. Simple as. If you believe that you're experiencing spirits that have been trapped, you will experience spirits that have been trapped. I've talked about my experiences with that when I believed it many times. Don't worry, guys, I'm not going to bore you today. I think I did tell you guys this, but one of the most interesting experiences for me was when I was really into Uncanny podcast, and I'm less so now, but when I was really into it at the beginning, I was painting our shed in the garden and I was listening to a particularly spooky one that kept giving me the heebie-jeebies, which I love. And I was painting the shed. Now, when I went back to the shed a month later to fill in some dots because the blasted wood had moved and stretched and there were some gaps, I was painting away and relaxing and I thought, oh, I'm really spooked. I feel like something's watching me. I don't like this feeling. What's this feeling? And it took me a little while to recognize that that was the feeling that I had left. Now, I don't know if that's energetic or psychological. I don't know if I'd spooked myself whilst listening to Uncanny in that space and left an imprint of spookiness, or whether there was some sort of synapse firing that was remembering on a subconscious level that when I was painting that shed, I was spooked and brought it back into my memory bank. I don't know which it is, but that's my take on that. And it's the same thing with videos where you can see spirits. Now, I've watched a lot of videos that fear-mongering mediums love to share. And I can often tell where they're going to say. And more often than not, it's not really because there's a spirit there. It's because there's a patch of a bush that looks a bit like a face, or there's a movement with light or wind that creates something on the screen. I know I sound really cynical. For a believer, I sound really cynical, don't I? But that's my general take on it. But of course, I do believe that spirits come back and visit places. So we quite often have the Baptist preacher that lived in our house walking around our house. I'm aware of him sometimes, I'm unaware of him others. When I used to have an in-person circle here, when we got to our last one, because I was moving on to other projects, one of the ladies that had attended it for the previous 2 years said, now we're leaving, I've got to know who is the vicar that walks up and down your front path beside me every time I come in. Doesn't mean he's trapped. He's just having a look. I mean, imagine if he was trapped. He'd have to do better to show me. He's not flashing any lights or slamming any cupboard doors. He's not trapped. He's coming to have a look. He's very attached to this house, which is a beautiful old house. And he did a lot of good for the village that we live in while he lived in it. So I can see why he's coming back. I'll be haunting people that live in places I have connections to because I'm damn nosy. I mean, you think about the amount of reality TV I watch right now. Can you imagine being a spirit and having that unlimited? I'll be nosing at everything. So that's that. Now, people have spirits that are connected to them, loved ones who love them, who want to watch them and be around them, spirit guides. So, of course, the more people in a space, technically, the more connected spirits there are, even though spirits defy space and time, so how can there be any more in one space than there are anywhere else? But there's more connection to the spirit world because there's more people. So I guess in a sense you could say that spirit are drawn to where there are lots of people, but I think it's more just that there are lots of people with their own natural connection to spirit, so you're more aware of spirit. I hope that I've covered that correctly. But also, imagine being a Swiftie and being unable to get tickets for the concert and moving into the spirit world. You would go and watch, wouldn't you? You'd go and see what you missed. I will certainly be going to watch Pitbull concerts when I move into the spirit world and I can bend space and time. I'll be there. Fireball. Do, 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 do. I asked my husband if we could go, and he was like, absolutely not. It's a Monday night and we're too old. And I was like, so I'll be there shaking my ass, dancing to Pitbull. Why wouldn't you? Okay, your next question is: over the weekend, I visited a National Trust property with my family, which dates back to the 18th century. We walked to a part of the grounds which is a cricket pitch, and there was a placard detailing the history of the pitch, which dates back to 1845. I find it hard to take in historical information, so I skim read the placard, but didn't really retain any of the info apart from that date. But as I was standing at the side watching my husband and daughter run around, I suddenly saw, in my mind's eye, a cricket match taking place on the lawn, with the men dressed in cricket whites but looking distinctly Victorian, and with women in the ladies' pavilion. The building is no longer standing, on the balcony of the pavilion in Victorian well-to-do dresses. Was this my imagination, or was I seeing some kind of energetic imprint? It felt really real in my mind's eye, but I didn't want to say anything about it to my husband because he already thinks I'm a bit batty, and it could well have been my imagination given that it was clearly a cricket pitch. Again, I'm interested to know your take on it, please. My take is that it wasn't just my imagination, but I'm struggling to explain what it actually was, if that makes sense. It's psychic energy, would be my take on it, Carly. And so energy transcends time and space. Just like when you're doing a reading for somebody, you can feel into their future, or you can feel into their past, or you just went a little bit further back. It was lovely in a way because the placard gave you a framework, but I don't think that framework meant that you were working in your imagination. But you can do this all the time. I love a National Trust property. I particularly love a National Trust tea room and shop. But now I'm on keto. Can't do that. That's beside the point. So I often would walk around National Trust properties or historical properties with my husband, and I would ask spirits that were connected to the space to come forward and chat with me, and find out information about the space. I, of course, like to test myself, and you can do this too. And I would ask the spirits to give me information that I would later look up about the site and see if I could get anything that was correct or linked to it. There was at one point Polesden Lacey in Surrey. I love Polesden Lacey, and we used to live quite near it. And I got a spirit through there who was talking to me about the grounds. I think it was Polesden Lacey. Anyway, and he was telling me about the ornamental garden that he had planted and showing me it all, and I could see it in my mind's eye. And then when we went inside, I could see photos, and there was information about how it was now a lawn, but it used to be all of these different things. So absolutely, sometimes it will be psychic, you're just seeing an energetic imprint, and sometimes it will be a spirit showing you what was once there. And both are fun to work with, I think. And you can, spirits are omnipresent. And I think most of the land in the world has been walked on by a spirit at some time. So you can get those spirits connected to the land and get them to come in and talk to you. Even if you're in a new build house, what was there before? What's the connection to that land? You can call them in. You can find out their takes, their opinions, their ideas. I love it. Right, your last question is, I was just listening to your podcast, Series 5, Episode 14, where a listener called Steve had sent you in a question about returning to Earth again after this life. By the way, I feel the same about Italy as you described feeling in Florence. I'm convinced I lived a life there, and that did come up in a past life regression I once had. So, your response to this question made a lot of sense to me on one level, but also threw up some questions for me too. If our soul could reincarnate 500 years in the past, how does past life regression actually work? Is it not actually past lives at all, but other life regression where we can access details of other lifetimes that our soul is simultaneously experiencing? How does it work with incarnating at the same time as members of our soul family and living multiple lifetimes with the same souls in different guises? As I'm writing this, I have a feeling you may mention the orange theory again, where segments of our souls can be living multiple lifetimes. So that may be the answer, may answer the question neatly enough. But I'm going to keep this question anyway, in case you have other thoughts on it. Now, the first thing I want to say is I think it depends on the past life regression. So I first of all want to say that I do believe that we can open up to other lifetimes, but you're right, Carly. I do believe from our soul's point of view, they are all concurrent. You are basically opening a doorway to another experience that you are having right now. And I do that an awful lot while I sleep. Now, sometimes I have crazy ass dreams that have no relevancy and I know that I'm dreaming. But sometimes I have dreams where I'm a different person living another life and I wake up and I'm really discombobulated and I don't even know which meat suit I'm wearing. And that probably is the strongest part of my mediumship, of signs that I was a medium. I know I believe everyone can be a medium, but that I would have an aptitude for it because I've had that my whole life, waking up and not knowing what body I was in. But I just didn't know what it was. Thought I was a bit mental, still could be. So that is that bit. Now, the problem is past life regression can also be a lovely get out of jail free card for a crappy medium. And this is my problem with it. I've had past life readings that have really resonated with me. And I've had past life readings where I've been like, And the trouble is, very few are based in fact. It's part of the reason that I like Dolores Cannon so much. I mean, I find she gets too weighed down with the facts. I wish somebody would do an abridged version for idiots. But, she's lengthy. She's a lengthy studier of it all. And I love the bits of proof that she finds in her past life regressions, that she researches. She's so methodical. I couldn't be bothered, but I find her amazing for the fact that she does it. So there's past life regression. Did you know you were an Egyptian princess? And there's past life regression. I'm going to try and find facts and information and validations. And they're two separate things. So past life with no proof, no evidence, it doesn't float my boat. Anyone can say anything. There's nothing you can say. If it doesn't resonate, you say, well, that it's not supposed to resonate with you in this lifetime, yada, yada, yada. So that is kind of the thing. I think sometimes it's better for us to experience things like I experienced in Florence, and just that knowing that you've been there before, or you're there currently because there's no time in the spirit world. So your soul is walking in another incarnation in that space in a different part of the world's timeline, blah, blah, blah. But yeah, I'm not too keen on it as a paid for service, personally. You guys do what you want to do. So, and yes, I do believe that we are living all of our lifetimes simultaneously. I do often, as you guys know, play around with the idea that there is also some sort of sliding doors element to our experience here, where we get to experience the outcome of every decision, which I also think is fascinating. There's all these sort of multiverses. Thanks, Marvel, for making it sort of system that we can kind of get our heads around. Multiple Spider-Mans in multiple incantations, living multiple experiences in multiple timelines. We get that now because we've all watched it. So I feel like there is something in that too that should never be forgotten. Now, where am I going with this? So yeah, I think that sometimes when we have past life regressions, we're not going backwards at all because there is no time to a spirit. We're just going through a doorway to another life that our soul is experiencing right now, because there is only now in the spirit world. And I think that is why that we can have multiple. I mean, when we look at an orange is a great example, don't get me wrong, but an orange has 12 segments if you're lucky. When we're looking at the orange of your soul, it's got infinite segments, and that's where it just becomes mind-blowing. It's not 12. 12 is very doable. How many past lives have I had? What have I had? But you've had more than there are people walking this earth, incarnations. And then you think about that, but you also think about your loved ones and your soul family that you're having these experiences with. They are having that many too. So they've got loads to go around. They can incarnate with you in multiple lifetimes and have multiple lessons and still barely scratch the surface of what your soul can go through. There was something else I wanted to say. Multiple incarnations, multiple souls. Maybe I've just blown my own mind here. Multiple timelines, but none of the time really existing. There's no regression. There's no going back. There only is. I can't remember. Maybe Spirit have wiped it because I was just going too far down a rabbit hole. But I think that's kind of where I sit with that. It's so much more. There are so many more facets to a soul than we can even begin to understand. Well, I hope that was worth waiting for, all the answers to those questions, Carly. And thank you so much for submitting them, waiting so patiently. And I will see you. Well, I'll see you online tonight because it's the finale of the Elevate course. So I'm going to see you all demonstrating. But obviously, this won't be out for another 2 months. See you soon. Next up, I have a question from Andy. And Andy says, well, he has put the best title of an email, which I will read aloud to you now. Subject: primary school teacher / fabulous, if not going through a serious dry spell, gay. Yay. And then he writes, okay, I apologise for that subject line, but everyone loves a gay teacher who hasn't felt the touch of a man for longer than he cares to admit. I'm only 31, pretty fit too, but I digress. Let's just stop there. Andy, if anybody would like to get in contact with Andy, you can send me a photo and a short bio, and I will forward it on to Andy, and hopefully we can end this dry spell. To be fair, Andy, you emailed me in October. I'm hoping the dry spell isn't now 5.5 months long, but okay, there we go. Moving on. This isn't necessarily what this nonsense and waffle will be about, but you're probably enjoying knowing that on the dates I've been on recently, I've been gently reminding myself not to share all the more esoteric interests I have or experiences I have been blown away by. It never happens. I'm always like, ooh, I have some weird interests, but don't ask me, which leads to a several-hour-long monologue of how amazing this world really is. Needless to say, no lay and no second date. Their loss. It is their loss. Who doesn't want to talk about the complexities of the universe? Actually, my husband doesn't. Sometimes, Andy, you have to just accept different cake flavors, different experiences. And, there's nothing, you don't have to change somebody's world, but you could have a jolly nice time. I'm determined to end this dry spell for you. Anyway. So, yes, I'm a relatively experienced and comfortable medium, which I take to mean I understand how it works mostly. And I'm also very happy to share that sometimes it really goes wrong and it's awfully embarrassing. And yeah, I'm sure we can all relate. My question is a practical one. I really like methods and like clear instructions that go beyond tune in. As of yet, carefully wording this so I don't create a self fulfilling prophecy. Well done. I haven't been conscious of the messages or guidance from spirit in a guiding sense. Sure, I can get evidence from someone's loved one, but how does one actually go about actually speaking with spirit as an entity? Do you expand and blend with spirit as a whole, like you would when you're sitting in the power, and then ask questions, or is it far simpler? For instance, if I wanted guidance on an area of my life, how would that work? Typically, I send my request for help out there in my mind and then wait all of 3 seconds before deciding I did it wrong. Not convinced any of this really makes sense, but hey, I've had a gin and tonic and want to ask. I wish I'd had a gin and tonic. It's midday. I could have one now. Okie dokes. So, the first thing I want to say is I know that everybody implies that spirit will tell you what to do, but in my experience, more often than not, they don't. So when I ask spirit for advice, their advice very much is things like, well, if you believed you could do anything, what would you choose? Rather than you need to choose this. When I say to them, can I do this? They say things like, don't know, can you? Are you going to work for it? And I say yes. And they go, well, then you want it. And it's never, Hannah, this is much what you must do to live the life that you have come here to live. It's more experimental than that. And it's more empowering than that for me. And I think that causes problems for people because I think people want a set of instructions. And spirit, in my experience, do not give them. Now, on occasion, they have done some very practical helping things with me. They showed me the wire that was wrong in a light fitting that my husband and I were trying to fit. But those aren't things that are going to change the course of my life. They're just assisting things. And that I saw as an image in my mind's eye. So, if there is something that you want to know when you're working with spirit, the best thing you can do is ask the question and then walk away from the energy of it. I don't believe in sitting in the power. I have to say that. I think it's a waste of everybody's time. I think if you want to meditate to clear your mind, meditate. But I don't believe that you need to sit in the power. The power is built naturally when you work with the spirit world. Very necessary and evidential, not so necessary for finding information out for yourself. So, if you are looking for guidance from spirit or information from spirit, ask the question and then let them unfold the answer in your life naturally. It's not going to come in words and pictures. It's not going to come in like, Andy, thou must end your dry spell by being more accepting of a lower standard of men in your life. It's not going to be like that. It's going to be something you see on the TV, a Facebook post that comes across your feed that you weren't expecting. You turn on the radio and somebody's talking about something and it gives you the answer you're seeking. All of the information that I share with you guys about mediumship has not come in as like one download that makes sense. It's come in dribs and drabs. I would also say, Andy, it needs to be an active energy. If you're just sitting waiting for them to deliver the goods, it becomes very stuck. You know, like if you're at a wedding and you're really hungry, why is there never enough food at weddings while people are having photographs? And you can see the servers walking around with the trays of canapes and you're watching them and they just don't seem to get to you and the canapes are all gone. If you're focusing on watching those canapes, it takes ages for them to come. If you focus on drinking more champagne than you should and chatting to the people next to you, before you know it, the plate of canapes is thrust upon your face. Oh, it's exciting. Thrust into your energy and you can eat what you want. So it's the same. I know that's a really simplistic thing, but when you're sitting there like trying to squeeze an answer out of your mediumship, it makes it really difficult. The best thing you can do is know that you've been heard, know that your spirit guides are guiding you, and go from there. Open up to it and let it come in. And sometimes I've asked a question of spirit. I like complex questions. I like to know how things are going to work. Like I'm more in the why does it work like this? what's with this teaching, blah, 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 philosophy with spirit. It doesn't come in one go. It comes in over 6 months sometimes in little tiny crumbs that I follow that unfold the answer piece by piece by piece. But just like when I do card readings, they will open you up to an energy of your potential, yes, but they will not tell you what to do. And if that's what you're waiting for, you will be waiting some time. I hope this helps, and I hope you're having a less dry spell. So there we go. On that note, another podcast, another day. I hope you've all enjoyed it. Of course, it really helps me more than you know if you can share, follow, leave a review, all of those boring things. They take you a few seconds, but they really assist me. If you have got a question for the podcast, you can email podcast@hannahmedium.co.uk, and I will catch up with you all again soon. Thanks for listening.